we did a show about generations, Generation X versus millennials, because our kids are millennials ish. My daughter's a little younger, but and that show people watch over and over, or new people discover it. It's pretty cool. It's critical to have people helping you, whether it be your family. My family is big help. They're really, really, really supportive. Or it's somebody outside of the family with, hiring somebody to help you with stuff, because you can't do it all.
Welcome to Begin, Build, Blossom Your Business Journey, the podcast where we share valuable insights, resources, and motivation to fuel your entrepreneurial spirit. Let's build a supportive community together. Don't forget to subscribe or follow wherever you listen to podcasts and be part of this journey. Let's pause for a moment to hear from our sponsors. You've built a name for yourself through hard work and dedication, but does managing the business side feel like a distraction from your true passion? Are you dealing with unmanaged finances? CME Accounting LLC is here to help. We specialize in organizing your financial records, allowing you to focus on what you do best. With organized books, you'll have more time for what inspires you, whether that's expanding your influence, building relationships, or simply enjoying life. Don't let unmanaged finances hold you back. Reach out to CME Accounting LLC today and let us help you thrive. Visit our website www.cmeaccountingllc.com or email us at admin@cmeaccountingllc.com. All right, let's jump back into our conversation. Good day and welcome to another episode of our podcast, Begin, Build, Blossom Your Business Journey. Today, we're honored to have a conversation with Verdel Jones. With over 30 years of experience in public education as a teacher, school counselor, and district level administrator, Verdel has dedicated her career to empowering others through knowledge. She's the founder and CEO of the nonprofit Share Inform Enlighten, the producer and host of Conversations with Verdel Jones, an author, and an award-winning community connector. Her passion for sharing resources and uplifting her community is truly inspiring. And in this episode, we'll dive into the impact of her work, her journey in education and media, and the lessons she's learned along the way. Welcome, Verdel. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me, Clarita. I appreciate it. I'm so excited to
Yes.
talk to you.
Yes, and thank you for saying yes. Yes, so we just mentioned that you've been recognized as an award-winning community connector. What does that mean to you, and how do you help bring people and resources together?
So I think through my experiences being in education and also being the talk show host for almost 10 years, I've met a lot of people. And through that, I've interviewed some great people, whether they be authors or psychologists or filmmakers and business owners. When I meet someone, I always keep it in the back of my head of what they're doing and what they can contribute to someone else, because I love sharing knowledge with people as an educator. So what I try to do is anybody that I meet and I say, you know what, they could probably use this or that, I try to connect them with people. One of the things that I had done also was author empowerment. When I wrote a book, once I exhausted my influence of my circle of influence, I had to get my book out there. And I found that as an author, it was difficult to find new customers, so to speak. So I created a program where I brought authors together where they could meet each other, where they could share their books. And through those events, I love to see that on Facebook or on, any social media, that these individuals really have connected with one another. And I was kind of the bridge to help them to get to know each other and partnering with each other and doing things together. So I love doing that. I love bringing people together and helping people, grow their business or just collaborate. I think community is so important. So that's how I'm a community connector in that way.
I really love that. And honestly, I really feel what you're saying because even, especially through this podcast, I could see how that really happens. And for me, it's part of the reason I started the podcast in the first place, to be able to share resources and just learn and teach all at once.
Absolutely.
Oh wow, I love that. Okay, so let's go to our segment we call Rapid Fire. We would love to get to know you and your businesses a little better. So tell us two words that describe you. One that describes you now, and one that described you as a child.
I would say now, I'm going to do it as a child first, if I could. I would say tenacity. And if I were to describe myself now, I would say tenacity.
Same. Tell us a little bit more about that. Usually I get two different words, but you went with the same word. So tell me more.
Because I think it's interesting that how you are as a child, yeah, you evolve and you change over the years because of your experiences and things like that. But I think sometimes at the core of people is something that they take with them throughout their life. And I know as a child, I share this with a lot of people. I did like a lot of attention as a child. And that was a blessing for me because I was able to, people listened and respond did to me, and I was encouraged. And I always had tenacity about doing things, even as a child. So as I got older, I noticed that that same tenacity stayed with me throughout my years. If I want something, I plan it out and I make sure that I can attain it with a methodical plan in place. So, but it's that tenacity that keeps me going.
Great, I love that. Thank you. So, tell us the name of your business and what you do in business.
My business journey kind of took on some different forms. I would say probably back, oh, I don't even remember when it was. When I wrote my book in 2016, I started a for-profit company called Deli Teach. And through that is where I created the author empowerment programs. And then I started giving poetry slam scholarships to students through that. And I also did workshops related to financial aid, how to get into college, because that's my background. I was school counselor and then I was director of school counseling. So I wanted to give parents that information about how to help their children in that process, whether it be college or education in general. And it slowly evolved into me wanting to do more with that scholarship for students. And that's when I created Share Inform Enlighten. And Share Inform Enlighten is really, it's a way to do a nonprofit just to be able to get the funding that I need to be able to support programs that I would like to do and also provide those scholarships year after year. And I've been able to do that. So this year will be our 5th year giving poetry slam scholarships to students. But we also provide things like author empowerments. We honored some people in the community as well through the nonprofit. We're going to be screening some films that are educational in nature and have discussions about that. So Share, Inform, Enlighten is really about sharing information, diverse voices, supporting literacy in all platforms, whether it be media or literacy, what you would think typically reading and writing and all that stuff. And that's really where my passion lies, and be able to, again, with the talk show, it's the same thing. Being able to provide information to people to better their lives, to help them with something they might have difficulty with, and just so they get some information that they don't have access to or they might not have access to.
Oh, wow. And do you do this full time or part time?
So I'm recently retired. I retired in September. Actually, September 1st was my first
Congratulations.
day of retirement. Thank you. Thank you. So I was doing all of this while I was working full time. So now that I'm retired, I can devote more time to really building and developing all the endeavors and things that I'm passionate about. So it seems like I'm more busy now because I do have the time doing things that I'm passionate about than I was when I was working. I mean, I'm going to say not, I'm just as busy, it seems, but now I have the freedom to be able to set my own schedule, which I absolutely love.
Wow. I'm so happy for you. And
Thank you. Thank you. Yay.
yes, and throughout this journey, I see there's a lot of education, a lot of community that is so important to you. Looking back on that journey, what's one of the highest highs or one of the best moments you've had so far?
I would say just being able, it's a collective kind of a thing. I don't know if there's one moment, but I would say it's the accomplishments of being able to plan something, set out to have very intentional to do things to support people, and then it comes to fruition. That really is the biggest joy for me. When we had our first, it's called Write, Rhyme, and Recite Collective, where we awarded student scholarships. This was back in 2018. I was just elated in the fact that I said, this is what I'm going to do, and it got done. And to be able to award students money for college is so rewarding. And then to still stay connected with some of those students as well, I think is rewarding. And as an educator throughout my years, you never really know the impact you have on people because you're just doing your job. So when somebody acknowledges the work that or how I supported them, it's really, and I'll tell you one quick story that stands out. On Facebook, one of like a teacher friend of mine, she connected with the students on Facebook. This was years and years ago, so I was a teacher a long time ago, and a counselor a long time ago. And she had put something on her Facebook page, and I commented. And a student that I had, who was one of my counselees, had commented and said, "Is this Mrs. Jones?" And he said, "Thank you so much for helping me get into the college that I went to." Because of you, you helping me, I got in and I met my wife. And he was like, you were great or whatever. And I'm just, I did cry because I'm like, you don't know the impact you have on people. And I think that's the beauty of education when you do it right, when you do it because you care about the children, which I'm very passionate about that. I love my kids. So just hearing that I mean, I was on a high for days. Yeah.
Yeah, as you should be. That's it. It's really it's amazing when you're doing something that you love, but then to get those stories about how years later, how you still have an impact on people. I remember some of my best teachers.
Yeah, and they don't, and the thing is, we don't know it because we're just doing it because we have that passion for it, and it's but what our job is really. But we teachers, educators, they're so important. That's why it's so important to have educators and teachers that really are passionate about helping children and caring for children, no matter what's going on at home. When they're in your classroom, when they're in your office, they're the priority, and you do all you can do to help them.
Yes, it makes a world of difference. And on the flip side of that, can you think of any moment that was probably one of the most challenging ones for you?
Throughout all of the years I've been kind of in the entrepreneurial space, funding is one. The challenge to say, is this going to be a business or is this going to be a hobby? Because you spend so much money just to try to make things right, and you want it to go a certain way. And I think, especially, we're going to talk a little bit about being, a podcaster and having a show. The monetization of that is very difficult. I found it very difficult. So I think that is really the biggest challenge. Doing it, I love it. But at the end of the day, it's like, oh my goodness, like how much can I do this? How much can I afford to do this without getting some revenue generated to support it? Because it can be an expensive endeavor.
Yes, especially if you want to do it right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you want to do it right. You don't want to do anything halfway. So I think that's a big challenge. And we also had a family show called Let's Kick It with the Joneses because I stopped conversations with Verdel Jones during the pandemic. Even though I did a couple of shows, a few shows at home, we started a family show with my husband and my two children. And we had a creative director. We had, like ads and things like that to try to get that, momentum going. And we were spending a lot of money. Thank God it was divided between four, the four of us. And we filmed in our home, which saved us a lot of money. But we bought equipment. I mean, we really did a great job. It was an awesome, awesome show. But how are we going to generate revenue?
Yeah, that remains a question for sure. So I'm learning that day after day.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's so important for us to have media that's representative of us and sharing our stories. And because there's not enough of that. So I think my ask or my plea, I should say, for individuals who enjoy watching is to support people who are providing this content. It's not an easy task, but we love it. We're passionate about it, and being able to monetize that and have supporters in our endeavors would be helpful.
Right. And I would say by subscribing, that's one way. What are the other ways you'd encourage people to support?
Sponsorships. There's so many. We have, you have, I have so many people that have a business that, or they're an author. They have some kind of service that they want to provide people. I think being able to sponsor us in that would be very helpful as well. So subscriptions, definitely, but also sponsorships, and also people who are passionate about getting our stories out there. So it might not be just businesses; it could be organizations that really are, passionate about having us share our stories and give us the money to be able to create a quality product.
Yes. Thank you so much for saying that. You're speaking on my behalf here
Good,
too.
yes.
So. Okay. Is there a movie or a book that you'd recommend?
A movie or a book that I would recommend. I'm big. Our family's big movie. We're big film people. My son is a he went to school for film. He's a film editor and he's all into that. My daughter's a journalist, and my husband loves films and things like that. I would say I love documentaries, and any documentary that's on, for the most part, I'm into, because it's based on research, and it's based on giving people information that, again, that they may not know. So I love learning about different things. So I would say any documentary that shares information that you might not know, I would recommend. A specific one that I would recommend, as far as a documentary. Oh my goodness, so we watch documentaries like all the time. The last one that I watched, I'll just share the last one that I watched. The last one I watched was Tyler Perry's story. Maxine's Baby, I think, is the name of it. Because he's a filmmaker, and because that's something that, we are interested as a family, it was so insightful to hear his journey and where he came from and where he got to. All of the criticism that he endures because people, feel a certain way about his films or his plays. But what he was able to do is to tap into our community and show characters that are relevant to people, because representation to me is very important. And he's able to do that through his films. You might not like his films or his plays, whatever, but what he was able to do and able to build and have that vision, it was remarkable. And I'm telling my kids, you have to watch this documentary because it was inspiring. This man he owns like a whole studio, like a real studio. And the way how he got there, it's fascinating. And it also speaks to what we could do in our country and how you can accomplish these things. So I just, that was something that resonated with me in a way that I didn't think it would, but it did. Yeah.
Wow. I really love that. And I'm making a mental note and also writing it down to make sure and I definitely look at that because I really like this section where we get to ask people what books they're reading or what movies they're watching, and I keep saying I have a list, which I do. It's kind of hard to go back, but I recently started really like putting that list together on Audible so that I can make sure I listen even while I'm doing all this stuff. But first time someone has mentioned a documentary, so I'll make sure to take a look at that as well.
Yeah, I love a good documentary. There's so many out there. I have a good friend who, a friend that we went to high school with. He is a filmmaker. His name is Byron Hurd, and he did a documentary called Soul Food Junkies, and it's about soul food and the origins of soul food and the trying to make soul food in a healthier way. And he's well researched in his films, and he also, but they're also a little funny as well, with the interviews. So Soul Food Junkies, since he is a friend, was also a good documentary. Again, it's about learning something, and the art of being a documentarian is fascinating to me. I love that research that's involved with that. So
Yeah, and I like how relatable it is because that's somebody who's done that thing. So, you can do it too.
right.
Yes. And going back to the beginnings of it all, we just talked about Tyler Perry and how he got started. And I know you mentioned that you started with your first business, it sounds like was Deli Teach.
Really teach, yes.
Okay. So did you always know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
As I was growing up, my grandfather was an entrepreneur. He sold like Western stuff. He was like a black cowboy. That's what we called him. And he sold leather goods. He sold just all types of hats and bolo, like all kind of Western gear. This is what he sold. And he was doing that for a long time. And when I not when I was a real little kid, but when I got like maybe a preteen, that's when because he retired and then he started doing that. And my mom and dad, they always had something that they were selling. Oh, they worked full-time job, but there was always something that they were doing. Whether my mom baked cakes and she was selling those, like it was my dad would sell, I don't know, these random like coat jack, like he's a salesman. So I think seeing that, it was in my mind that I had to do something. Like I just can't work a regular 9 to 5. I never really, I was not, I was a little nervous about having a business and not having a full-time job. And because my parents, they both worked for the state, they retired, they got a pension. My grandfather, one of my other grandfathers, he was a teacher, retired. Like my grandmother, same thing. So that was kind of ingrained in me that, you get this job and you work for this many years and then you can retire. But while you're doing that, you can also have these little side things that you can do. And I think that's where I kind of said, you know what, I could definitely do that and I have to do that. I felt like I wasn't contributing if I didn't do something like that. That's just a, mindset.
Now that you're retired,
Yes.
looking back, would you have done anything differently in terms of, because I know you mentioned having that full-time job, like this is a safety net, right? We have to keep that. Have you thought about that at all? In terms of you would have done it the same?
I would, because I love being a teacher. I love, I really, really loved it. When I retired, I was a little scared because when you think about it, I've been in school almost all my life, from preschool all the way through. I have never not been in school. So being out of school is a little bit strange for me, but so I wouldn't have changed it. No. Yeah, I like a little bit of that, especially in education, most of the time in education. I love that stability. I was a little afraid to just go out and say, you know what, no, I wouldn't. Plus, my parents would have killed me if I did that.
I understand that feeling.
And at the end of the day, I listen to what my parents say.
It's just so good to hear the different ways that people go about this. And it sounds like even with the work that you did outside of teaching, it all was still the same. So even while you were doing your full time, you were doing what you loved anyway. So it just all really complemented each other very well.
Yeah,
Sounds like you've had a great journey. So thanks so much for sharing that with us.
yeah. I've been blessed. I've been blessed for
And
sure.
when you decided to actually, formalize those businesses, what were the next steps that you took? So it sounds like you had a for-profit, non-profit, podcast. So tell us a little bit more about those.
Yeah, we've had we also did a production. We produced a couple of shows where we had the whole crew, and by crew I mean my kids and me. My husband wasn't involved with this particular part of it, but we actually did some produced the show in the sense of we shot it, we edited the whole 9 yards. My kids did a lot of that, really. And so we did that. Um, we created LLCs for these companies. One was Deli Teach, like I was saying, and then with the production, like we had a lot of a lot of things going on. We created the production company, another LLC, and then the nonprofit was created after that. And you were asking me about the process of that, or
Yeah, in
just
terms of like the steps that you took, and I know some people have. You mentioned LLC, which means you actually went about formalizing that. So, did you work with an attorney? What resources helped you in the process, especially nonprofit, like on the podcast? Because I feel like with nonprofit, not many people know the process of getting a nonprofit.
nonprofit. So the LLC was for the first time getting into for Deli Teach. That was the first real LLC that we created. I did go through it was an online company. We went through the online company, and they walked us through those steps. And it was an attorney. I think it was Nolo was the name of the company that we went through, and we got that that process done. The next thing, the production, my husband did that. He did it all himself. He did it online. He did it all himself. But the thing about the LLCs, you have to make sure that you know what you need to do every single year, what you have to do. I think biannually you have to register again. When you first start your LLC, you have to make sure that you have to publicize or put your LLC in certain publications. Like there's rules behind this, because if you don't do it, you run the risk of not being an LLC. So you have to make sure that you do those things. Register it, put the publications in, then every 2 years you have to go on and kind of certify. I guess you want to say it's like $9 or something like that, or maybe 20. Don't quote me on the price. I don't remember. So those processes, it wasn't difficult to do. It was pretty straightforward. As far as the accounting and things like that, that's something that I do. I was a business major and business teacher, so that's something that I don't have a problem with doing all of that, taxes and stuff like that as well. Taxes we do get done from someone else, but I'm able to take care of the books, so to speak. And with the nonprofit, like you said, it is a little bit more trickier. And I did work with someone who helped me with the nonprofit to organize that. She was in the area of helping people develop the nonprofits, and she was a guest on my show. She had a book in reference to creating a nonprofit, and as a result, I utilized her services to help me start that nonprofit. The nonprofit, again, you have to just make sure that from year to year what you need to do. If you make under a certain amount of money, you have to file taxes, but it's something that you just go online. Very, very simple. It's a 990 EZ. If you make over $50,000, you have to do a 990, like a full kind of tax return thing. Not as extensive as your taxes might be with a business, like an LLC. But with the nonprofit, it is a little more straightforward, I think, especially when you're not
Oh, and
making a
in
lot of
terms
money.
of the management, you need a board of directors, I suppose, right?
Yes. So we do have a board. My board consists of a friend of mine. She's on board. She lives in Maryland, so she works with us. And then my family is part of the board as well. So as a matter of fact, one of the things that we are going to do, because we're getting more active and more busy, is have some more individuals on the board because when you have your family, we're all on one accord, and I'm very above board with every single thing that I do. I like more voices in the room because we kind of tend to think alike.
Yes, I know what you mean there. Yeah.
So I would love to, we're going to be adding a couple more board members to our nonprofit, which I think will be, because what you want to do is you want to have a board that can support what you're doing with the nonprofit and also fill in the gaps for your weaknesses. So if we have certain weaknesses, we need to fill those with individuals that are passionate about the same thing, but they can help us and support us in those
Oh, and it
areas.
sounds like that will be a new process for you. Have you figured out how you're going to do that?
hmm Yeah, I what we'll do is I have a couple people in mind that I want to approach and give them an invitation, and then what we'll do is the board will have a meeting with them and ask them some questions and make sure they're a good fit for the board, and then we'll vote and all of that. We try to do things formal because it's a nonprofit and you want to make sure that you're doing things right. So we will go through that process within the next couple months.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, I'm smiling because I remember when I had to name my daughter, right? Like figuring out the name. So now I'm about to ask you because you've had to name quite a few entities. What is the process and how do you know, okay, my gosh, this is the right name?
It is difficult. So with the first one, Deli Teach, my nickname in high school, I'm Verdel, so my nickname was Deli, and I'm a teacher. So I just put the Deli Teach together. That's how I came up with that one. When we had the production company, my daughter's name is Maya, my son's name is Marcus. So we did Maya Mar Productions. So it was both their names. Share Inform Enlighten came about because my talk show, my tagline from before I revamped it was sharing conversations that inform and enlighten in the hopes that you learn something you may not have known. So out of that came Share, Inform, Enlighten. So that's kind of
Awesome.
how
I
it
love
came out.
that. They were all very intentional.
I know what's the name. They were intentional. Yeah, I am an intentional person. I am. I
Awesome.
am.
Thank you so much. So as we talk about building, I want to just kind of focus on the podcast too, because I'm learning here too, and this podcast thing is very new to me. So I would love to learn as much as I can. So within here, we're kind of going to go through your as quickly as we can the process of getting your podcast. So when you started, um I guess we get a sense of what inspired you to start the podcast, but do you want to add anything else there?
Yeah, if I wasn't a teacher, um, I always said that I would like to be on the radio. And I don't know why. One of my aunts, my mother's sister, she did some radio work, and I kind of, I looked up to her, admired her, and I wanted to. I don't know, for some reason, I just liked being on the radio. As a kid, I would listen to the radio all the time. I loved the disc jockeys that were on there and all of that. So I wanted to do that. So maybe I'll do something with that. I was introduced to a woman, and I don't even remember how I met this person. And she was doing a in studio talk show, and I was a guest on her show, and I don't even remember why. And she was like, "Oh, do you want to do your own talk show?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, sure." So that's really what kind of sparked it. And then I just loved it. And it was in studio, and it was 2015 that I started that. And I was working with her for a little bit, and then I started doing stuff on my own, and that's really how it kind of evolved. And through the process, again, learning so much. I love to learn about people, and I love to learn different things. I was mentioning the author piece. I can't tell you how many books I actually have read, because I like to read the books before people come on the show. So that was just part of the learning process, and being able to connect with people in that way as well. So just evolved, and I just kept doing it and doing it. One studio that we were at, they were closing. So I had to find another studio close to the home. And I was there for, I don't know, maybe 6 years. I was there for a good little bit. And then once the pandemic hit, I had to do it at home. Now I'm back, and I'm doing it in another studio.
Wow. So you started in studio.
I started in studio. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't want to do a podcast. I wanted to do not, well, it is a podcast, but I did want to do that interaction in studio, because
I know, right?
I wanted to be the next Oprah. That was my dream, to be the next Oprah.
Oh, yeah, same here. So, Oprah, if you're listening, we want to talk to you. Okay. And so I know we've said one of the biggest challenges has been funding. So I can imagine being in studio is quite expensive compared to what we're doing right now. So how do you manage that?
Let me take a step back. In studio, it's going to be more money, because it's the studio time, and that's what costs. And then you have to take what you get from the studio and edit it, depending on the studio. So what I was able to do was, as I was saying, people sponsored some of the shows that they were on. And that's one of the things that I require or ask for people to do when they come on the show. So it's not, they're sponsoring the show, but what do they get out of it? They get out of it a copy of their show, their segment. They get advertising from the show. They get, social media exposure from the show, and then distribution. So currently, our show is on all major streaming platforms, and it's on YouTube, and it's on Facebook, and it lives there. It doesn't disappear. So I don't take down shows. They're there. And plus they get a copy of their segment as well. So in that, it's, you need to be compensated in some type of way. So that's kind of how slowly I'm beginning to be able to just cover my costs for the in studio, because the distribution also costs money. Not to, and then the editing, because I do some of the editing. The studio does some of the editing, but then I add my B-roll and information, things like that on the episodes as well. So it's very time consuming.
Yes, it definitely
Yeah. And then
is.
sponsors. And then I have some sponsors that also help support the work.
Let's pause for a moment to hear from our sponsors. You've built a name for yourself through hard work and dedication, but Does managing the business side feel like a distraction from your true passion? Are you dealing with unmanaged finances? CME Accounting LLC is here to help. We specialize in organizing your financial records, allowing you to focus on what you do best. With organized books, you'll have more time for what inspires you. Whether that's expanding your influence, building relationships, or simply enjoying life. Don't let unmanaged finances hold you back. Reach out to CME Accounting LLC today and let us help you thrive. Visit our website www.cmeaccountingllc.com or email us at admin@cmeaccountingllc.com. All right, let's jump back into our conversation. Yeah, that's great. I'm really happy to hear that. And can you talk a little bit more when you say distribution? Tell us more about that.
When I say distribution, we're on all major streaming platforms. So that is something that I pay someone to make sure that they're on the, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and Amazon Podcasts, whatever it's called. So they're on all of these platforms. So I needed somebody to do that for me. So every episode, it goes out on those platforms. And then with YouTube and Facebook, I do that myself. I just upload those, but it's distribution so people can have access to it. That's what I mean.
Great. I actually had not thought of iHeartRadio. I just never thought those were accessible.
Let me tell you, I don't know how they do it. I just pay, and it's there. I don't know the technicalities of it. And I bet I probably could do it, but sometimes the time you spend on looking into that information and how to do it, you could be doing something else that makes the show better. So yeah, so I did go that route. And I'm on like 12 different podcasts.
Great. So, in terms of growing your audience, it sounds like that's one way of doing that.
Yes, and I think that's key, being able to grow your audience in that way by making it accessible to and so many. The other way is like in YouTube, Facebook. I'm pretty good with. I don't do anything extra, so to speak. We share it out to different groups so people will watch it. My daughter does a good job of that. Pretty decent views from Facebook. For YouTube, you have to make sure the SEOs are right and the optimizing. And so I also hire someone to do that. So there's ads that you could place so you can get your YouTube channel out there so people watch it. And then you get more views. With more exposure, you get more views. So that's something that we did when with our family show, Let's Kick It with the Joneses. And now I'm starting to do that as well with Conversations with Verdel Jones, because I never did that with Conversations with Verdel Jones before. I'm just starting to do that now.
And I'm learning so much here. Because when I started, it was just, it's mostly for the love of it. But all those things do come into play. You have to be able to sustain and maintain. So, in terms of the numbers, when did you start seeing, like, do you remember when you first started and where you are now and how those numbers compare?
I would say since I've been doing it for a good little while, people know about the show. And when I came back, I saw my viewership increase much more than I did in the past. And with the assistance and with the help of someone working on optimizing, like its keywords and hashtags and all this stuff, and the tasks that you have on your YouTube channel too matter. That stuff. So there's people that know how to do that. Whether you use somebody from Upwork, Fervor, I think is the other thing you could use. Just testing it out to see, to make sure that it's going to the right place. First of all, that the people you want to view are viewing the shows, and then they can also do ads. So I've seen definitely my subscriber numbers go up. I'll just say for Let's Kick It with the Joneses, since we did that a while ago, I can really see the increase. Like still today, with the work that was done with that, I'm seeing people watching the show still. And we stopped it almost 2.5 years ago. We have one show that's like, I get a comment on the show almost every other week, which is it's so cool to see. So I think it's the viewership. I'm going to have my base that will watch it no matter what. But now it's the challenge of getting new people to watch. And I think that's a challenge. And I think you need some type of support and help from the outside with an Upwork or Fervor to support you with that.
Right. Thank you. And I really like that part about, sometimes the episode you put out a long time ago, it's now been discovered,
Yeah, it's
something.
really cool. Yeah, like we did a show about generations, Generation X versus millennials, because our kids are millennials ish. My daughter's a little younger, but and that show people watch over and over, and, or new people discover it. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. So that takes us nicely to blossoming. I would love to know what's the biggest thing you think you've learned, especially when it comes to podcasting. Like, what has that taught you? That whole process.
It's taught me technical skills. I will say that. I've learned how to, I could edit. I could make quality product by myself. I used to have my kids do a lot of stuff. So those technical skills that I've been able to develop during this process are amazing. I'm proud that I'm able to do that. I'm able to engage. I've learned over the course of doing it, how to speak with people and how to ask them certain questions and how to kind of pivot. So if I'm asking them a certain question and then they say something else, I'm able to extract and elaborate on what they're saying. I might have questions in front of me. I don't use them because I'm having a conversation with people because what they're saying is engaging. I've learned that you need support. You need people to help you in the endeavor. You can't do it alone. I think it's critical to have people helping you, whether it be your family. My family is big help. They're really, really, really supportive. Or it's somebody outside of the family with, hiring somebody to help you with stuff because you can't do it all. That's the other thing. I do all my graphic. I wasn't doing it when we were doing the family show. I couldn't do my own show, but we had a content creator that we hired that did all that stuff and it was amazing. But now I'm doing everything. I'm doing my graphics. I'm doing the editing. I'm doing the uploading. I'm doing creating the content for the descriptions of the shows, like everything I'm doing. So having somebody help you, I think is so important, especially when you have other things going on.
Right, for sure. And in terms of actually reaching out to guests, like I'm guessing there's been opportunities where you probably just see somebody reach out. For instance, I saw you on LinkedIn. I we probably have a mutual person. I was so amazed that I reached out and you were so gracious. You actually met with me. We had a conversation. I asked you if you'd like to come on the podcast and you said yes. Like that is so amazing when it comes to the podcast. You get to meet so many amazing new people, and people actually are open to having conversations with you. So how has that changed for you over the years? Like were you always easygoing in that sense, like just reaching out to people, or did that change over time? Just tell me a little bit about that.
I would say that networking. So like the event we both went to separate events, right, over the weekend,
Right.
and meeting different people. People always like to share their stories. So the event that I went to, there were a lot of business owners that were there. So just making sure that you keep in contact with them. There's a lot of, I post on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram. Hey, do you want to be a guest? And I get response from people that want to be a guest. I also friends of friends. Like my aunt sent me a couple of people that she was like, "Oh, they would be a great guest on your show." So it comes in so many forms. I did, however, at one point have I was part of a email group, like a organization that represents like a book publicist, let's say. I've had a lot of connections with some book publicists who have actually given names of people that they would like me to interview. One particular was Dr. Steve Perry. He's an educator. He was on the OWN network. He did, I think, Saving Our Sons or something like that. He was on Ayanla Van Zant's show as well. And he's a social worker by trade, but he has charter school. And I reached his publicist, I think, reached out to me rather, or maybe I reached out to him. I don't remember how it went down, but we connected and I was able to interview when he was getting ready to do a national talk show. So I've had the opportunity to interview some pretty dynamic individuals, and everybody would like to, even at a certain level, they want to get the information out. And if they trust you and they see what you do, they're more likely to say, yeah, sure, I'll be on the show. I've interviewed Mark Bynum, who is a 3-time CHOP champion. Through that, we've been able to develop, we're pretty friendly, and I can call him and I can ask him things because of the relationship that I was able to build with him. And I had him at in my home and we did an interview, but I had met him at a restaurant. But anyway, but still, these relationships you kind of have to cultivate and develop. I've interviewed Vera Moore. Vera Moore she's an entrepreneur. She's an amazing woman. She was on All My Children years ago. I think she was like one of the first Black women to be on All My Children. And she has a cosmetic company. And she was in my home and she shared her story about how she was able to be in this mall, one of the first Black people, women in the mall selling her products. So, and again, I know that I can call her, and because of the relationships that I've been able to develop, and I think that's what it's all about: connecting with people, keeping in touch with them. They have something going on, and you're like, oh, that's great. Commenting on their post or whatever it is, just keeping that connection, I think is kind of key to getting your guests, and then extending those relationships beyond the podcast.
Oh, wow. I truly love that. Oh, you were speaking to me there. Thanks so much for sharing all those experiences with us. And when you started, did you think you'd be speaking to these people, or is there somebody that you, and on the other side of that, is there one person you really, really want to have on there and you haven't had a chance?
Not, you know what? Not right now. Not right now. I would love to interview Oprah. That would be great. But I don't think I'd be too scared, to be honest with you. But yes, I mean, there are people. I mean, I've interviewed politicians, local politicians in our area, and I didn't find it intimidating, because politicians are politicians. But I didn't find it intimidating because it was a conversation. I like to interview community people as well, because I think it's important for people to understand what's going on in our community. Um, but as far as, I just like to interview people that are going to share some great information that can help somebody. I don't really get caught up in the fame of it, I guess, unless it was Oprah. I just like talking and getting information from people, because they can help. There's a lot of times what happens is you don't realize, I know for me, I don't realize the information that I might have that might be useful to someone. So when I get someone that I'm interviewing and I'm like, wow, that's so cool. They know this, they know that. I don't see myself that way, which is like, why do you want to talk to me? But I get it, because there's always something that you can gain from someone else.
Yes, oh wow. This has been so engaging. Thank you so much. I've truly enjoyed this conversation, and I'm hoping to be able to just keep connected with you. So as we close out, is there any exciting plans that you have coming up that you'd like to tell us about?
Yeah. Yeah. So our show, we have some great guests. So I would love people to check out Conversations with Verdel Jones on YouTube, Conversations with Verdel Jones on Facebook, and all major podcast streaming platforms. But with the nonprofit, we have some really great things coming up. We have our Write, Rhyme, and Recite Collective celebrating young poets and highlighting authors event. And that's going to be June 6th. So students will compete for a Poetry Slam scholarship. Our top prize, and it's top 3. So what happens is students submit their application. They upload a video. We select the top 3 students, and all 3 students that come to compete for first, second, and third will get a monetary award. Our top award last year was 2,500, and I'm sure we're going to be able to do 2,500, maybe a little bit more depending. It was like 2,500, 1,500, and 1,000 that the students won last year. So that's coming up in Dix Hills, New York, on June 6th. And we are also planning a old school hip hop fundraiser for August 1st. So that's coming up for Share Inform Enlighten. So I'm excited about that. We're in the planning stages. Hopefully we can pull this together. And then we're going to be doing a workshop in June also, Share Inform Enlighten, partnering with another organization about grief and loss, whether it be, and it'll be a workshop style event with a panel discussion and resources for people as well. And it's going to be about grief and loss, but not only loss of a loved one, but maybe loss of a relationship, loss of a job, divorce, let's say, all of these life-changing events that happen that might cause you grief and being able to cope with your new circumstance, let's say. And then you have to also want to take a look at the impact of COVID. And COVID was trauma for everyone. And how do we navigate that? Because it really was traumatic. And I don't think people take a step back and say, man, that was really something that we went through, because it manifests itself. It manifests itself in our actions, and I think interactions with one another. We definitely see it within our children. That lack of connecting and socializing that they had in those formative years really impacted them. Even in our older children, it's a sense of isolation that I think a lot of people feel as a result of that. So we're going to be talking about all of those types of topics, and then self-care. How do you navigate that, but how do you take care of yourself as well? So those, I'm really, really excited about that. And that's going to be the second week in June. We have to pinpoint a date that we're going to do it, but we're doing that as well.
Okay, and we can get all those dates on your website, because I'm trying to write them now, and I'm like, I need to make sure I don't miss any of those dates.
Yes. So that's shareinformenlighten.org is where you'll be able to find all of the updates and information about what's going on.
Okay, great. And as we close out, are there maybe 3 tips that you can share with people listening? For those who are probably only now starting, those who've probably been in it as long as you have, just any 3 things that you'd like to share with them.
I would say not only plan for today, next week, next month, but plan on where you want to be, 5 years from now. Have a plan in place. Every single thing that I've been able to accomplish, I had to really, really plan it out. But not only plan, because you can plan all you want. You have to do. you have to implement that plan. You have to go step by step to say, okay, I want to be here in 5 years. These are the things that I want to do. With me, it's not necessarily for me. It's not pen and paper. It's here. And I know that I need to hit certain milestones in order to make that plan come to fruition. So I would say plan, but not only the planning, but the action behind it. And sometimes that gets in the way, but that's what I would say. Have a tribe. You hear that all the time. Have a tribe, but you need supporters. You need people who are down for you, basically. Who are able to support you when you might not want to do anymore. So I would say, yeah, have your tribe, have your supporters, have those people in your circle that are positive and willing to listen. And then I think the third thing would be when to say when to say enough is enough, and I might need to go a different direction. So understand that the pivot that you might have to do is not a failure. It's just, you know what? Because I don't have to do this. I can pivot. Maybe I could do something different because it's not serving me. It's not serving my community. So I would say being able to say no, wave that white flag, and go on to something else that fulfills you and fills you.
Yeah, that last one is a very difficult one, but necessary. It's good to take a look back and see what needs to be changed, or if there needs to be a pivot. Yes. And when you said plan, I'm like, we probably need to plan that episode with Oprah, and maybe we can get that to happen, right?
Right.
Okay, so let us know the different ways that we can reach out to you.
Sure. So for all the information on my nonprofit, Share Inform Enlighten, it's shareinformenlighten.org. If you would like to check out Conversations with Verdel Jones, it's Conversations with Verdel Jones on YouTube, on Facebook, and all podcast streaming platform. On Instagram, you could follow me at Verdel_Jones, and on LinkedIn, Verdel Jones. I think and Share Inform Enlighten also has a Facebook page and Instagram page.
Okay, thank you so much. Truly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time out. And I look forward to attending at least one of those events. I'm interested in all of them. As a mom, I'm like, I need to make sure I can get babysitters.
I understand. I totally understand.
But I will definitely try. Thank you so much. Have
Thank
a
you,
good day.
Clarita. Thank you. You too. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Begin, Build, Blossom Your Business Journey. We hope today's conversation gave you the insights and inspiration you need to move forward on your own path. Don't forget to subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode. Do you have feedback? We'd love to hear from you at podcast@cmeaccountingllc.com. Join us again next week for a new episode.